On the evening of July 22, 1991, two police officers in Milwaukee were stopped by a young man running through the street in panic. He was barefoot, breathing heavily, and one of his hands was still locked in a metal handcuff. The man begged the officers for help and told them someone had tried to kill him. His name was Tracy Edwards. The officers tried to calm him down and asked what had happened. Edwards told them that a man had taken him to an apartment nearby, placed handcuffs on him, and threatened him with a knife. He said the man had been acting strangely and that he believed he was going to be murdered if he hadn't escaped. The officers walked with Edwards back toward the apartment building he pointed to. The building looked ordinary, just another small apartment complex in Milwaukee. When they knocked on the door of the apartment, the man who lived there answered calmly. His name was Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer appeared relaxed and polite. When the officers asked about the handcuffs, he told them that it was simply a misunderstanding between him and Edwards. He said the key to the handcuffs was somewhere inside the bedroom and invited the officers inside to retrieve it. At first, nothing inside the apartment seemed obviously wrong. It looked messy, but not unusual. One of the officers went into the bedroom to search for the key. While looking through a drawer, he found a stack of photographs. When he examined them closely, he realized the images were of dismembered human bodies. The officer immediately called his partner into the room and whispered that the photos were real. At that moment, they attempted to arrest Dahmer, but he resisted briefly before being forced to the ground and handcuffed. Once Dahmer was under arrest, detectives were called to the apartment to conduct a full search. What they discovered shocked even experienced investigators. Inside the apartment were human skulls, preserved body parts, and evidence that several murders had taken place there. The investigation that followed revealed a horrifying pattern of crimes that had been happening for years. Dahmer had developed violent fantasies long before the murders began. Over time, those fantasies became actions. He would approach young men in bars, shopping areas, or on the street and offer them money to come back to his apartment for drinks or photographs. Once the victims arrived, Dahmer drugged them so they would lose consciousness. After they were unable to resist, he murdered them. In many cases, he attempted to hide the bodies inside his apartment, keeping photographs and body parts as disturbing souvenirs. Detectives spent weeks gathering evidence and identifying victims. Missing person reports from previous years suddenly connected to the crimes in Dahmer's apartment. Investigators eventually confirmed that he had murdered 17 victims between 1978 and 1991. After his arrest, Dahmer confessed in detail to the murders during long interviews with police. He explained how he selected victims, how he lured them to his apartment, and how he tried to hide the crimes. The case quickly became national news in the United States. The public was shocked that such horrific crimes had taken place inside an ordinary apartment building without neighbors fully realizing what was happening. In January 1992, Dahmer's trial began in Wisconsin. His defense team argued that he suffered from severe mental illness and should be found legally insane. Prosecutors, however, presented strong evidence showing that Dahmer understood his actions and tried to avoid being caught. After listening to the testimony and reviewing the evidence, the jury rejected the insanity defense. Dahmer was found guilty of multiple counts of murder. In February 1992, the judge sentenced Jeffrey Dahmer to 15 consecutive life sentences, which meant he would spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of release. He was transferred to a maximum security prison in Wisconsin, where he remained incarcerated. 2 years later, on November 28, 1994, Dahmer was attacked by another inmate while working in a prison facility. He later died from his injuries. The case left a lasting impact on the United States. It raised questions about how multiple disappearances had gone unnoticed for so long and how such crimes could occur in a normal residential building. It also changed how police departments handle missing person investigations and how communities respond to warning signs. Even decades later, the crimes committed by Jeffrey Dahmer remain one of the most disturbing examples of how someone who appeared quiet and ordinary could hide a series of horrific crimes behind the door of a single apartment.